to Deloitte Tech Talks. Welcome to Deloitte Tech Talks. I'm your host, Raquel Buscaino, and I lead Deloitte's Novel and Exponential Technologies team, or our next team, where we sense and make sense of emerging tech. I couldn't be more excited because we are filming this special edition episode live from CES, that is the Consumer Electronics Show here in Las Vegas, and really excited because I'm here with a special guest, Deloitte's Chief Futurist, Mike Bechtel, and who is also an executive editor and sponsor of this year's Tech Trends 2025 report. So this special edition episode will focus on our Tech Trends 2025 and how we're seeing those trends show up on the show floor with change makers who are doing what's new and next in tech. So with that, Mike, welcome to the podcast. It's so great to have you.
Raquel, thanks for having me. It's a madhouse in the best way here.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Well, so Mike, this isn't your first CES, right?
Right, facts.
Yes, this is true. So what is making you excited about CES 2025 in particular?
Well, over the last few years, you tend to see a hero technology emerge, and then as often as it emerges, it submerges, right? Part of trends is the risk of fads. But this year, I mean, it's all AI all the time, everywhere. And I think a glass half empty person might say, oh, it's the mother of all fads. Raquel, I think what we're actually seeing is the most important information technology transition since the World Wide Web, right? We've got AI pure plays. We've got companies we've heard of now doing AI. It's AI everywhere. But what's kind of cool is it's showing up as ubiquitous, as everywhere. And in that way, it's going to be less of the hero story and more of the foundation that all these other interesting business stories stand upon. And so I'm not feeling AI fatigue. I'm feeling AI intrigue because it's really the rocket fuel for what's next in just about every sector.
And in the report and the main theme, you akin AI to electricity, where there's not a booth that says, XYZ now with electricity. That's kind of crazy. So I like your analogy here. You're saying it's pervasive, but you don't feel the fatigue because you see the impact of it.
Well, there was a time, I'm old enough to remember when companies would slap the suffix .com on everything. I mean, you could have it's dogfood.com.
Very successful company, by the way.
I mean, the Magnificent Eight, right? We just forgot about it. But the thing is, even those companies eventually just went back to their roots, not because .com didn't matter, because it was presumed. And so electricity, presumed. HTTP, presumed. And so 5 years from now, AI will be all over the CES show floor, but it probably won't be yapped about. It'll be presumed.
Amazing. Well, should we get into our 6 trends? Yeah. Our first trend, spatial computing takes center stage. So what does this mean to you in the context of CES 2025?
So one of the things that we've seen over the long lens is that human-computer interaction trends towards simplicity. I mean, long before my time, believe it or not, computers were even more complicated than they were 20 years ago, right? To work a computer meant to have a PhD, to wear a white lab coat and feed punch cards to a machine the size of a brew. Well, then it became, no, you don't need a PhD, you need to go to night school. I just needed a dummy's book, right? And I remember a woman on my team who looked me right in the eye one day and said, you couldn't imagine a modern technology needing so much as a book. Well, augmented reality, virtual reality, extended reality, spatial computing. When we think of it as heavy headsets, right, computers on your face, you think, that's not simple. But I'll tell you what, walking around the show floor, and talking to clients around the world, what we're seeing is the headsets give way to goggles. The goggles give way to glasses. The glasses give way to contacts. And what we're going to find is, compared to carrying one or two, or God forbid, I saw somebody out there with 3 phones, a journalist carrying 3 phones around. Imagine a world where you just paint pixels where you need them. Raquel, what we're seeing is reality itself is coming online. And it's not about the metaverse. It's not about an escape from the real. It's about zhuzhing up the real with the best of digital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I mean, that's kind of what I've seen walking around the show floor too, is, in the past, there's been a lot of the XR, MR, the devices, the things you put on your head. I've been personally surprised by the amount that I'm seeing on everything besides devices on your head.
Well, one of my favorite exhibits was advertising displays in a brick and mortar environment that were looking back at you to figure out, okay, approximate age, inferred gender, and then by proxy, using AI, what might your interest be? And then better yet, there's 13 of you, so let's show the best ad for this group of 13. And what I thought was, okay, A/B testing and optimization isn't new. We've been doing it on the web for 20 years. What's new is doing it on the side of a building. Reality itself is coming online. That's pretty hype.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. Okay, so we talked about AI. Second trend is what's next for AI?
Well, when we built this year's Deloitte Tech Trends, we had this, it was a clear conundrum, right? Do we have a trend about AI, or do we recognize that AI shows up in all of them? We did both, right? And so the what's next in AI trend recognizes that there's a whole set of emerging, not quite ready for prime time concepts that by the middle of 2025 will be the new normal. Multimodal AI. This is the idea that you give it a picture, you give back text. You give it text, you give back a picture, right? Music into video. There's going to be more to AI than just chat, and we're already starting to see that. Then you got multi-model AI. One of the big ahas we found in this year's report, and I see it all over the floor. There's more to life than one big chat box to rule them all, right? We saw companies delivering small language models on regular old laptops. Why? Because maybe you're a fire station in the middle of the mountains and you can't count on the internet behaving. Okay, you use an SLM, right? The other idea is agentic AI. Now, a lot of people are worried that one is a little up and to the right on the hype cycle. I'll tell you, think of it more like replacing a superhero AI that does everything with an Avengers team of sorts that each has their own power, right? We've got Travel Agent, which, drumroll, can help you plan travel. Over here, you got Customer Service and Returns Agent that can, no brainer, help with that. Why is that useful? Because you don't need a Mensa grade, super intelligent AI to just do one of those roles. You can do it leaner, meaner, cleaner, less electricity. And it also helps the user because you can say, where do I go for help with this? Oh, probably that one there. So it's more like a posse than like a singular answer to all life's questions.
Yeah.
That's what's next for AI.
Incredible, incredible.
Pretty legit.
And what about, there's been a lot of talk on the show floor, just, as we've been walking around, on physical AI. And this, we'll get into a little bit maybe in the next trend here. Hardware is eating the world. I mean, I would love your analysis here on as it relates to AI, but also as it relates to robotics a little bit as well.
About 15 years ago, the idea was the only businesses worth your time and attention and treasure were software businesses, because this was an age where cloud was beginning to take off, where apps reigned supreme, and everything worth doing was bits and pixels, pixels and bits. That's changing. Walking around the show floor, you've got quadruped robots. We've had those for a while, but now they're less than $2,000.
Pretty crazy.
Bonkers. I think the technical term is bonkers.
That is.
You've got humanoid robots, and you say, well, that's just a gimmick. No, it solves what we might consider to be the last mile problem. You might have an industrial robot that lifts and moves stuff like a forklift, but you might need something with fingers and thumbs to actually move it into your kitchen. And so you can think of it as a mashup between AI and the physical world, right? Call it physical AI, right? I like to think of it as, we've spent the last 3 years talking about mechanical minds. look out. Here comes mechanical muscles. The world itself is going to get a lot more interesting when hardware takes center stage.
Yeah, incredible,
Yeah.
incredible. And I've been amazed by seeing the robotics and the difference even between last year and this year, I think in the number of robotics companies and also just the ability. So it's been pretty exciting to watch.
It's wild.
Okay, so those were our first three trends. Our fourth one, these are our grounding forces, we call them in tech trends, because these are the no-brainer decisions you need to make. First one is IT amplified. AI elevates the reach and remit of the tech function. So what is this trend about?
So this is a little more back officey. It's a little bit more about how the proverbial sausage gets made. What we've seen, Raquel, is that 2023 was the year where AI was magic, or dare I say witchcraft. Like, it's voodoo and it's coming for jobs. And you're like, maybe not. 2024 was the year of mass experimentation, right? We had tons and tons of our Deloitte clients whipping out credit cards at the departmental level, trying it and finding it merely very useful, right? 2025 figures to be the moment where companies commit. We're starting to see people say, you know what? I can turn my team into superheroes, right? Think of a super suit, right? Take your best person. You know what's better? Them augmented with machine intelligence, right? And so where is that happening first? Well, shocker, in the IT department. Why? Because techies are comfortable with tech. And so what we're seeing is tech strategy itself. Tech strategy is embracing the sort of augmented superhuman worker because we're seeing it as a better together story. One of the stories I heard, Raquel, which kind of melted my brain. Turns out the best chess players in the world, they're not humans or machines. They're humans with machines. Call them centaurs, like that, like half person, half horse. Weird, but it gets the point across. What we're finding is some of the highest performing employees, centaurs, right? Great humans armed with great tools. That's IT amplified.
Yeah. And I'll add to this. And one of the things that I'm really excited by, a lot of young people coming to the organization, is it's so native to use AI and to augment in a way. And I know you're probably saying, laughing because maybe relative to you, I might be a little bit younger, but it is pretty incredible because when you've grown up with this tech and it's so native, it's like second nature to you. And I think watching that, become more pervasive throughout the organization is just going to be exciting.
Raquel, one of my old teammates told me, he says, I've come to reflect upon things. An emerging technology is anything that came out after you finished college.
Yeah.
And so you're right.
Perfect.
There's a whole generation of people being like, well, why wouldn't I use a robot brain?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Okay. So our fifth trend, the new math, solving cryptography in an age of quantum. Why is this year in particular a bit pivotal when it comes to quantum?
So quantum computing feels like one of the most eye-crossing, mind-bending, nerdy technologies you can imagine. In part because it's literally physics, right? I mean, there's this great story, Richard Feynman, one of my personal heroes. I got a black and white picture of him in my office, along with normal family picture, right? But Feynman famously said, listen, even quantum physicists can barely understand quantum mechanics. And so, alas, I don't know that I have it in me to really make sense of the bits or qubits here in our time together. But let me tell it to you this way. Quantum computing solves sticky, wicked problems with physics instead of math. And what you find is so much of the way that we secure and protect the modern economy is with math, cryptographic defense. Well, if quantum computers can come along and crack those codes like child's play, we're going to have a bad time. And so what we're seeing is this moment that we call Y2Q. Y2Q is sort of a play on Y2K. But here's the difference. Y2K, 25 years ago, quarter century. Y2K, a firm deadline. If we don't fix all the computers, we're going to have a bad time. We fixed it. We didn't have a bad time. The trick with Y2Q is we don't know when these quantum code breakers are going to be ready, these cryptographically relevant quantum computers. And so it's up to business leaders to pull their head out of the urgent and start solving for this important thing. Because those who let this creep up on them, that's not great.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, well said. Well said. All right, to round us out, our sixth trend, one of our favorites, I think, the intelligent core. AI changes everything for core modernization.
Oy.
Yeah.
So here's the scoop. Clients sometimes they come up to me and they go, that Deloitte Tech Trends, it's so cool because you got all that future facing fancy. And then there's this core modernization bucket that feels definitionally old. I had one client refer to it as, that's the rusty and crusty stuff in back. And why do we have it? Because 70% of enterprise IT budgets go into managing that old stuff in the back, right? It's fun to work on the frontier, on the pioneering edge cases. But the fact is, if you've got COBOL running on AS400s, you got to figure that out. Well, here's what's new. Drum roll, shocker, AI is helping there too. Because 3-4 years ago, we talked about low code, no code technology. What's that? What it means is people can use plain English to say what they wish to do, and the code kind of writes itself. It works for core too. And so in our tech trends, we're saying, listen, what if we can rewrite some of that old spaghetti stuff with plain English and use intelligent AI agents to get down and do that last bit of plumbing? Game changer. And so AI shows up in the shiny edge case, right? All the stuff on the floor. Engineers are singing hallelujah because it's helping them do the least fun work of all, bringing that 40-year-old stuff up to snuff.
Yeah. And I think AI, too, it's not just being used as part of the modernization journey, but it's also the impetus to modernize, too, in some ways.
You need to get today to play nicely with tomorrow. That's hard enough. The last thing you want to do is to try to get yesterday to jam with tomorrow, right? Like, ain't no room for laggards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So as we wrap up, a couple thoughts here. One is our conclusion chapter this year. I had the pleasure of writing with you, which was pretty fun. But our title for that was Breadth is the New Depth. I can think of no better place to exhibit that than CES, with just the sheer number of companies. I mean, we got 150,000 people here, 4,000 exhibitors.
Right.
What are the intentional intersections or some of the crazy mashups that maybe you've seen here on the show floor?
Well, Raquel, the pleasure was all mine. Like co-writing a piece with you. It was a real peak. But let me tell you, we were touring some board members, some captains of industry around just this morning. And this gentleman pulled me aside and he said, you show an automotive executive in automotive innovation, they're going to tell you all the reasons it won't work. Because as we like to say, right, you can't read the label when you're inside the jar, right? You want to know the reason an innovation can't happen? Ask an expert. He turns to me, he goes, that's why this farming innovation is so interesting. Because if we took that tractor idea and brought it over to a 4-wheel drive pickup, we're onto something hot. And so to me, and I think to us, and certainly to Deloitte, we're starting to see that as AI begins to equal or outperform human potential on known specialized tasks, the real place for human mojo and human magic, it's in the dot connecting. It's seeing that, oh man, that cosmetics innovation could do wonders over here in retail or vice versa. And that's why I love coming to CES, because like weather in Chicago, if this isn't doing it for you, wait three hours, it's gonna be a totally different scene.
Incredible. Okay, so I hope that we get to do this podcast again next year. Say that we're doing it a year from now. What are you excited? What are you hopeful for that'll happen over the next year? What is it that's on your horizon as we think about a year from now that could be at CES, or what you'd hope from CES 2026?
All right. Forward-looking statements, my favorite.
Yes.
As a futures professional. I'll tell you what, Raquel. I've never seen so many shiny hammers at CES. And by hammers, I mean tools. My old anthropology professor, rest in peace, Professor Jim Bellis, he used to say, technology is just a puffy-chested 4-syllable synonym for tool. And it always stuck with me, right? Because whether it's a stone flake, the printing press, or AI, it's a tool to help us do better stuff. Great. What I hope to see next year is a little more energy on the problems worth solving. right? You saw, we've all seen shiny hammer after shiny hammer capable of doing amazing feats. What are the feats we want to solve for, right? I think that's the untapped space right now, right? It's not about copy pasting your competitors' use cases and declaring victory, right? It's about saying, what's the altogether new hotness that we can now do, if not but for all these new hammers? I'm looking for altogether new business problems next year.
I love that. I love that.
Right on.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for being on the Tech Talks podcast. It's going to be an exciting year ahead.
Thank you, Raquel.
Yes, yes. And to all our tech savvy listeners out there, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. If you'd like to learn more about Deloitte's 2025 tech trends, download the report, follow Mike or myself, and we're looking forward to hearing you out the rest of the year. Thanks so much, and we'll see you soon. Stay savvy.